Howdy.
What is your name, your pronouns, and also how are you doing?
Well, I'm hiding in public. I just go by hiding generally. I do anime, video game analysis primarily, but I want to be pushing into the left space more. My pronouns are any, all. I kind of lean toward they, them right now, just because of how I'm aware I look and present and everything. Just what I feel comfortable with. And finally, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I'm so surprised that there was such a quick turnaround on this. I guess I didn't expect it to sort of, you know, metamorphosize. I don't know. I'm nervous.
Yeah, no need to be nervous. I totally get you though. I normally take a lot longer to get back to folks, but I'm actually getting pretty close to running through the entirety of my appointment backlog. So I'm trying
Mhm.
to be an active, I'm being active, I'm being aggressive. That's what I'm trying.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got back to me in like 2 days. I was I was pretty shocked.
So, what's on your mind, friend?
Well, uh, I guess first of all, since I'm sure most of your chat doesn't know me, I want to clear this isn't like a big disagreement, a big debate or anything. I went on a date a couple months ago, and the guy I was on a date with, I said something. Having not watched your content, you just came up, and I had that stupid misconception about the pedo thing, which is so embarrassing.
No worries.
And he corrected me on it, and of course, I had egg on my face. They're great. I'm still, on good terms with them and everything is wonderful. But it made me, reconsider. I'm someone who's very open to changing my opinions. So I beat Bloodborne, platinumed it, played it 4 times while binging your content for the
So
last
now
two
you're
months.
ready to talk to me.
Yeah. No, I literally I was going through the Chalice dungeons, the Thumerian Queen and everything, just debate after debate after debate, all the big ones. So I think I'm caught up fairly on your positions. I can't say that I pay attention to how new or old they are a lot of the time, but
Yeah, that's a problem with doing this kind of stuff. Sometimes you'll be held to account for positions you held literal years ago, and you might have 70 videos where you've updated your position since, but you can't expect every single person to have watched all 5 million of your segments. So inevitably that's just going to build up over time.
yeah, no, definitely. Um, I will say I agree. Now that I've actually seen your content, I agree with most everything you've posited. Pretty much every drama that has gone through or whatever. I mean, I find your position to be very reasonable. So I don't have big disagreements, but I just thought that we would have a couple fun things to talk about, mainly on axiomatic principles and consequentialism, and on just like my own kind of conceptualization of gender and see what you think about that.
Yeah, please hit me up. I've got about an hour.
Yeah, I'll try not to try not to
Yeah, my
overgo. I don't
alarm
know.
bells ring eternally when I hear axiomatic positions. I'm thinking like, oh shit, fucking better cancel tomorrow's appointments. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm happy to talk about all that.
Yeah. Well, it mainly came up because I finally saw the non-compete thing, and I was like, wow, that is awful. But in it, you talked about your axiomatic principles and consequentialism, and then I think later in the after talk, you were talking about other things, and you brought it up a few times since. Um, I come to utilitarian conclusions for the most part, but I don't consider myself a utilitarian. Um, I think that's mainly because, seeing as moral frameworks are mostly subjective, I'm sure that you would agree with that. Generally, you have to bite the bullet at certain points. So, like with virtue ethicists, they have to bite the bullet on what constitutes virtue in like the nitty gritty and those lines in the sand and justifying those. And to my understanding, and of course, clarify your position or whatever, it's not like I'm going to be arguing with you. Um, but to my understanding, you're a utilitarian consequentialist. But since like classic Bentham and Mills utilitarianism can sometimes lead to horrible outcomes that violate human rights, you have axiomatic principles in there to basically say, okay, well, these are hardline. If it comes to a situation where it violates those specific rights or positions, then it's like an impasse. It doesn't go past it. Is
Yeah,
that
I
a
no, I think the problem is that I don't think it's really possible under any ethical system whether that be like whether you believe in objective morality or not. I don't think it's
Mm,
possible to ever reach like the point where you find the hard line of when it's acceptable to do this or that. Like you can get kind of general estimations, but greater degrees of specificity become increasingly impossible and sometimes
mhm.
counterproductive to try to figure out.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
but yeah, when it comes to that, like I think some people call threshold deontology, which I dislike. I think that rule
Mhm,
utilitarianism does just fine at sort of encompassing the idea that you should examine every action for its consequences. However, there are broader considerations you have to take into account when it comes to what you normalize and what patterns you set.
mhm. No, and I think it makes much more sense to call it rural utilitarianism as well, because like with Kant and deontology and stuff, a lot of the ideas of his axioms that like the axiomatic principle thing comes from, I feel like he has a lot worse construction on that. I think the general utilitarian model is good faith. I think the main bite the bullet on standard, just normal Bentham and Mills utilitarianism, the bullet you bite is basically that you can't measure happiness and suffering in like any sort of quantitative sense. So it always has to go off like general stuff, which I think is far less of a hard bullet to bite than than deontology of itself.
Well,
I hope
deontologists
this isn't
suffer
like
their own questions. They just don't bother asking. Consequentialists just accept the fact that deontologists are all stupid. Deontologists are muscling in. Well, how do you do this? Well, how do you do? You never hear the end of it.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I don't spend that much time on their turf asking them how you can deontologically work this or that out because I know they would just start like screaming or I don't know, piss themselves.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Um, so I guess I wanted to propose like maybe an alternative to an axiomatic principle that gets you to the exact same position, but I think is more like sturdy. At least if it ever came across in an argumentative sense. Maybe it's not sturdy. If you think there's problems with it, I'm that's why I'm here. I'm curious to hear it. Um, I'm gonna try so hard not to over just overload with too much
Do
info
it,
here.
kill me.
Um, okay, so the way I construct my own personal moral system is basically like a sense of logic. So I don't believe that most moral decisions can be objectively found because there's too many variables to possibly account for in like a mathematical sense. So there is no objective morality in like a practical sense. Um, but I believe that if you go back to the root of things, you can sort of logic your way to a baseline of principles. So I'm going to go right to the root. Basically, the only thing that we absolutely know that is unarguable principle truth is the principle of non-contradiction from Aristotle, which is that A equals A cannot be B. It's like the very proposition of disagreeing with something proposes that there are two separate things from each other. Logic itself is a matter of is or not is. So that's pretty well agreed upon. Imagine you go with that.
Oh yeah, probably. Once you start getting into metaphysics, I'm afraid that I'm a little bit deliberately arrogant on the subject.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but I'm happy to dive in.
Okay.
With an airtight diver's helmet. Uh,
Yeah.
so I don't die down there. No, I don't. No, I fully agree with that. The problem is once you get into the specifics on this, um,
Mm,
there are so many arguments people can make for or against any position that I don't know and
mhm.
definitely wouldn't understand if they were phrased to me. For
Okay,
the
okay.
purposes of this, I'll go with yeah, I get that.
Okay, okay, yeah. Yeah, it's not like a controversial thing or anything. It's generally agreed upon that it's logically impossible to argue against it because it itself is the foundation of logic. Like all science and logic come from this singular principle that something with all of the same properties and variables cannot be something different with something different variable. I mean, it's a circular argument. It's a circular statement, but it's because it's necessarily true. Um, from there, basically, though, I mean that's like the grounding point. So that's like the truth part.
Right.
From there, I generally go with okay. So certainty or objectivity is unattainable. Not sure if you've seen. Or it's like I only know what I know. And we can never know that we know everything. So we can never be fully. We can never fully know anything. John Locke put something forward which nobody ever really talks about that much on certainty. And that was basically that which does not provide possibility of error, given the evidence of that which does not provide possibility of error, given the evidence, is certain. Another way of saying that is that which is least inconsistent is most true. So, talking about applying to reality, basically like a logical argument. If it most aligns with reality, it is most true. If you're talking about something, within reality. And from there, so that's the second jump. Then the jump after that I take is Jean-Paul Sartre, and plenty of other people as well. I mean, I'm just throwing out names to try to ground this like categorically better, but Jean-Paul Sartre had the idea that humans are prescriptive, not descriptive, in regard that we were not created by a god for a specific purpose, but instead we define our own purposes through our actions. And so thereby, whenever we make actions, we are prescribing that this is a thing that a human ought do, or is okay for them to do, or should do, or whatever. We are consenting that this is human behavior whenever we do something. So I take that, and then the last little bit of it is autonomy. So with all current medical knowledge and everything like that, human beings are equal. We're all rational beings, and there's no one who is objectively superior than another. So our autonomy equals out kind of around the same line. And I think, once again, that's backed by the fact that it's the most logically consistent thing that someone could argue for, is that all humans are equal. And so with that, it is a logically impossible argument to assert that your autonomy can violate another's autonomy without their consent. Let's say cold-blooded, just absolutely unmotivated murder, like black and white as can possibly be. I kill somebody for no reason at all except for to kill them. My assertion from there, basically, based on the idea of principle non-contradiction and that the least inconsistent argument is the most true, that you could say that an extremely narrow position like that is black and white and morally indefensible from any sort of logical point of view. And so that's how I get back to that axiomatic principle of, well, murder is wrong, just like, cold-blooded murder is wrong, except for I feel like they've gotten there from a logical basis that reflects reality. Sorry, there's the dump.
You didn't leave me a clear a line there from which I could jump in. I didn't know. Look, I fully get that. I think the issue ultimately is that the idea that you can work back to axioms in this way is itself informed by another, like, unjustified first principle, right? Like, the presuppositions that are being made here still have to be derived from some kind of, like, basic faith in something. There's still, like, a root cause or origin. And from a rhetorical perspective, none of this means anything when explaining it to other people, right? Like, you talk to the average person, and they would rather kill themselves than comprehend metaphysics. Which, hey, same. The issue that I have with, like, ethics is I think the approach that I take towards ethics is very much like an iceberg one, where I'm very interested in doing what I can to shore up, like, the little bit that's sticking out. And as for the stuff that's underneath the water, I tend to leave that to other people. Not only because I don't think knowing more about it would improve my life or make me a better person, because, if they took issue with my behavior, they could always reach me on my own terms, but also because I can't reach other people on those terms. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's just like, it's kind of informed from like, so something I really like about your content is it's extremely empirical. You're very quick to, oh, I've got this stat. Oh, I've got this data. What is this sample size? This is what the science says. This is what, you're very quick to do that. And then also whenever you reason things, they're very like logically deductive. They follow like a consistent argument. They aren't contradictory. For me, I was raised very religious, and I worked my way out of religiousness basically from a logical like progression. And so from there, I've had a hard time, being told your whole life that God justifies everything. You can't justify yourself without God. It sort of has made it important for me to want to be able to at least logically get to the point of my positions. Just maybe even just for my own personal thing. It isn't necessarily for convincing an argument, but I do believe that the extra level of weeds, if someone's like, oh, so what does it make it? Oh, it's self-evident. Well, other people didn't find it self-evident. I feel like people who argue in bad faith, it's harder for them to have easy gotchas whenever you can stonewall.
Oh, sure. Though
and all that.
I hope you're primarily doing it for your own benefit, because I've listened to
Definitely.
these like Christian debate lords argue, and they always do so either in bad faith or in a circular way. So there's no
Yeah.
actual, you could never actually debate lord a person out of being religious, right? You can convince a person to not be religious, but a logical contradiction is never going to hit them there. Though I agree
Well,
with
it
you.
hit me. It hit me.
Well,
But yes,
okay.
people not.
I guess there are exceptions. I wonder though, in what way did you get moved over?
So I was told that Christianity, if God is real, he is the ultimate priority, and that you need to follow and understand him, and also that the path is narrow. Not many people go to heaven. So there's, there has to be a specific way to follow God. So I got obsessed with what the right way to follow God was, and kept finding these contradictions constantly showing up. So then I started, okay, well, maybe I should research out of my own point of view. So then I read the Catechism and I read the Book of Mormon, and then I went and I read some of the Hadiths, and I just kept expanding more and more and more until I had to reach a point where I realized, like, there is no like logical connection here. And then so in college, I was a double major philosophy psychology. And so I took multiple religious philosophy classes talking about like epistemology of like religion. How do we define God? How do we connect God to religion? And it just seems like a lot of that is, well, it's all faith,
Yeah, Jesus. I don't know if this is the road a lot of people go down to get out of religion. Props to
yeah,
you. Props to you for doing it in the nerdiest way possible, though. That
it
could
could be
take a
a
lot of
bit of
work.
autism speaking.
Hey, good. Autists have to have their own path, right? No,
Yeah.
I get it. Of course, like ultimately it's like that comforting truths versus uncomfortable realities deal, where obviously if you believe that God is, the ultimate and the everything, then you can create circular arguments where that is the case and it self-justifies. But if you
Yeah.
run back far enough, obviously outside of that circle, people have no fucking idea how to root anything in the universe ethically. Like people are arguing, people will always argue about it. Frankly, religious philosophers have been doing the same thing in their own spaces for the entire time too. So nobody really, there's no like academic field adjacent to ethics where people really feel like they have a handle on things as a collective, right? Even if individuals do.
Yeah. No, I agree. Yeah, I just wanted to posit kind of what has become my own moral theory from all the philosophers and crap that I covered in college and read on my own.
Now, I'm ashamed to
I
say
guess I
that
don't have much else to say.
I don't know enough about
Whatever you else.
metaphysics to even meaningfully critique it, to be honest with you. I wish that I did, but I think I tend to fly by the seat of my pants a little bit in that subject, just because
And I mean, that's fair.
it
I mean,
usually
what
gets
is
me to
somebody
what
going
I'm
to say?
looking to, right?
How can you justify that you think murder is wrong, self-evident? Like, most people
Right,
aren't
like
going to go
nobody
there.
will. Yeah, no, it never comes to that, And if it does come to that, I usually feel like the debate is a write-off to begin with, because if people start running back to the axioms, there's almost no way I can reach them anyway. Usually the goal
Yeah.
is if somebody has the same axiomatic values as me or close to, which I think most people do, you can try to, even if they're not, I don't want to say smart, even if they're not like educated on ethics enough to like really work that out from first principles, you can still kind of pull them over through intuition, like, oh, well, if you believe that society should be the best for everyone, then how can you say trans people are bad when no harm is being done? And it's like, well, actually this
Yeah.
or that. It's like, okay, well, what do you mean by that? And you try to work, and eventually you might get at some kind of fundamental axiomatic difference, usually like a fundamental belief in order, social cohesion, or a rejection of degeneracy as like its own principle rather than in service of another. And at that point, it's usually best to just, I don't know, hit them with a rock or something or whatever. Just
Yeah.
it's just okay. It's time sunk. Let's get this over with.
Yeah. All right. So this is something that I'm far less researched on. I guess I'll just jump to the second topic. And this is kind of, so I'm not sure if I want to like, make this like a super public thing, I guess, but I have always kind of seen myself more as a woman than a man, even if I haven't been able to contextualize that. And I'm still kind of struggling with those sort of things. But in researching it and looking at your things, I feel like I've come to really understand like trans arguments and everything a lot better. But then also with my backing in psychology and everything, there's a lot of stuff there that also um, I feel like so I'm not a transmedicalist. Sorry, I know how this is sounding. I need to remember the
no,
optics.
that would be a very odd perspective. You're
Yeah.
in the right place though. You know, you said I don't know if I should make this public. Actually, my community is full of more trans women than any other place on the internet. So it's, you know,
I believe it.
if ever there was a more fitting place. No, whatever you're about to say, no one will interpret it in bad faith. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say I go by non-binary right now because I don't present in a way where I feel comfortable being seen as she/her, but I do feel more she/her internally. But I guess my idea is so. This is my idea conceptualization of gender. So sex is a bimodal distribution, talking about all your different genetics. You got the XX and the XYs and all different combinations. And let's say it's I think you did a color example in one of your things way back when. So I'll just use color. You know, like color is a spectrum. It's a real physical thing, but then it's also a socialized thing where we describe certain sections of that spectrum. This is blue, this is green. Some people might see part of the blue as green, some of the green is blue. And you know, move along and decide differently depending on who you talk to or whatever. I think in the same sense, sort of the idea of man or woman is different from culture to culture, but generalizes around these sort of average traits that sort of connect to certain lengths of the bimodal distribution. My theory then is, okay, so man and woman are someone who self-perceives within that part of the distribution, and we can know that they perceive there because their perception is their neurology. We know basically that through brain science, I wrote down the exact parts. It's like the limbic lobe in the front middle of the brain determines emotion, personality. The cerebral cortex determines memory, reasoning, intelligence. I mean, we basically have the science has basically bit the bullet on determinism for the most point. Not that determinism, like, you know, social factors don't matter. I'm not talking about that. But just that we are biology informed by society. So, however we feel about our self-perception is inherently what we are as that perception, because I guess it would be like, I can say my favorite strawberry, or I can say my favorite fruit is a strawberry. I can be like, oh, this is really good. I can't say it's the best fruit. I can say it is my favorite, though, and it is true that it is my favorite because it's a specific thing about my own perception. So my own perception is that I identify here. So it self-affirms itself through its neurology because my perception, my neurology wouldn't make me think that unless I already had it. So it's a social construct, but then also there's reason to believe that it's biological, like in an abstract, not in a transmedical sense, but just in an abstract sense there. I guess I'll stop steamrolling.
No, I like steamrollers. Okay, do you want me to roll through this? I can do my own steamroll. Are you ready?
I hope so.
Fantastic. Okay. So my thinking on this has evolved a lot in recent times in terms of like where gender fits exactly. So obviously we have sex, we have gender. The two are separate, but they're related, obviously. Most people who identify as men are XY, blah, 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 you know. But the extent to which this like association means anything to me is kind of tentative. There's a lot of cultural pollution going on. So, for example, you could make the reasonable argument, let's just say, for example, that most people are XY, have dispositions towards, let's say, aggressive behavior. Now, is this true? There's an association between testosterone and some types of aggression, but it's complicated. But let's say, for the sake of example, that that's what we're leaning towards here. You can imagine that somebody who has those tendencies, those aggressive tendencies, might be more inclined towards being a guy than a woman if they were given the choice, entirely independent of any like biological prescriptivism, simply because the cultural characteristics associated with being a man are more in line with that type of behavior. So that might be a biological inclination there, where there's literally like a component of one's biology that leans in towards that. There's also like the post hoc prescriptive judgment, where like if somebody grows up and they're told that they're a guy, they're more likely to find that the characteristics they already have that fit within that are comfortable in that gender role, and they don't like question it because it works fine for them. I feel like
Mhm.
that's more where I lean, where I don't really have a strong prescriptive like moral investment in my gender identity, but I think I fit just fine where I am. So there is certainly no point in me like messing about there. You know, I'm fine with how I'm treated and how I treat myself and so on. Um, but the issue is that, like, when we say somebody is a man or somebody is a woman, what we need to remember is that all descriptive statements contain within them an implicit prescriptive. In the same way that you could say fairly, light skinned Mexicans are white. Now, according to the US Census, and a lot of people, that's true. There are literally cultural and legal, precedents that you can refer to there as a way of justifying that. In that sense, it is descriptive. You are referring to the world. But
Mhm.
prescriptively, you're still affirming that assessment. There are still people who might disagree with you. I feel the same is the case when we say anybody is a man or a woman, whether they're cis or trans, we are descriptively talking about like a self referential thing, an identity marker. But we're also saying, and that is how it should be. We should identify or recognize that. Kind of like
Mhm.
the way
Mhm.
there were a lot of trans positive people who refused to go by non binary or they them pronouns for the Club Q shooter. Because even if they're
Yeah.
trans positive, they refuse to prescriptively validate the obviously bad faith. And of course, it's been
Yeah.
proven to be bad faith now. The hate crime charges have been laid, and the lawyers are no longer using they them pronouns for them, or for him or
Yeah.
whatever. So obviously, right? We knew that, everyone knew this, but in that sense, like there's a prescriptive element. So like at the end of all that, what actually is gender? The problem is that it's contradictory no matter what angle you look at it from. It's influenced
Mhm.
by biology, but if you take a purely biological perspective, you run into massive contradictions. There's
Yeah.
definitely a performative element, but it can't be pure performativity because we know there are femboys who have strong identities of like being a guy in their head, or maybe a little bit more real and less anime porn brained butch
Mhm.
lesbian women who have very strong like I am a woman attitudes. But
Yeah.
also, let's be clear, a lot of these people legit just look like guys despite being cisgender. Wacky how that works. So
Mhm.
so the performative element can't be it entirely. And as for the identity element, I don't think anyone fully believes the identity element on its own is secure in like a social sense, because even though it might be socially convenient to run down that line, I think a lot of
Mhm.
people, at least on an intuitive level, understand that like when they say, "Oh yeah, I identify as a woman or as a man," there are at least some social or behavioral connotations made there that don't have to be made. Like it's not a requirement, but like, we kind of expect it. That might be a
Yeah.
temporal thing that could change in the future. So, I'm sorry. I steamrolled more than you. What I'm getting at the end of all this is that I don't think there is a coherent definition at all. But the best one that you could
Yeah.
possibly make is just when you talk about what your gender identity is, what you're really saying is this is the social category that I want people to treat me as though I am in. Like with
Mhm.
my interactions with the world and with myself, I want them to be slotted through this lens, through this like analytical angle. I want this modifier to be applied to the way people treat me. If a
Mhm.
modifier is to exist, this is the one that I choose, and I think that's the best you can really go for.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally
Whew,
agree.
all right. Okay,
I
gotcha.
think I totally agree. I mean, I think I connected with everything you said there. Um,
There's not really a
uh,
definition that's going to make everyone happy at the end of the day, right?
oh,
Especially,
definitely.
this is one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent for a distinction between the terms transgender and transsexual. Even though the latter
Mhm.
sounds pretty outdated, there is a difference between people who are transgender in the sense that they're casually non-binary, but it's just like an identity thing, and people who
Mhm.
have like genital dysphoria and they want to do the whole 9 yards with the hormones and the blah blah blah. There's not a
Mhm.
moral difference. They're both trans. There's not, it's
Yeah.
neither's more real than the other, but they're definitely two like distinct elements of the
Yeah.
identity, and I think it's okay to recognize that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think the main reason, I mean, I agree with everything you say. It's a social contract there. How we define what man and woman is, and the lines that we go on is always going to be different. Like I was saying, like different cultures have different conceptions of man and woman in terms of their stereotypes, the colors associated, all those sorts of things. Um, so I mean, yeah, they're always going to be different. I think like so. I was thinking of like how to get this idea across to like some of my family who are not politically conscious or are more conservative, right leaning. Um, and a big thing for me is like if I say, "Oh, it's just a social construct," even though it's absolutely true, 100%. I think their intuition is, "Oh, you can't. You think female can be man?" You know, like that's anti-scientific. But it's like if I explain the bimodal distribution and how brain science and neurology is determined, like just in general, personality, identity, everything like that, reasoning, memory, it's all parts of our mushy brain. If I talk about how like those pieces of neurology can be bimodally distributed in an infinite amount of ways to where we can't possibly understand like oh, brain wise, this is the man brain and this is the man body. Those can be different. Those can be different on scales, on different levels. So it's, I mean, I know like the old way that people would look at it would like female brain, male body, which is super out of date. But I would say that would be an example maybe of like bimodal distribution where the neurological is very strongly
Look,
the
any
female.
argument. Listen, this is the
Mhm.
thing a lot of people forget. If your argument convinces people to support trans people, it's the correct one. People get all up in their head about which, oh, is this outdated, that outdated. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. Hit them with some shit from the '60s if you have to. Go
Okay.
back to the restorations of the burnt gender like identity clinics from fucking Nazi Germany. Unearth those volumes and use. It doesn't matter. Whatever gets them on board, that's the morally correct thing to hit them with. Oh, by
Yeah.
the way, something I've found that's quite useful when it comes to having that conversation, because you
Hmm.
need to talk about the difference between sex and gender. If they can't get that,
Yeah.
they're never gonna like that has to be dressed. But you know,
Absolutely.
so often when we talk about, oh well, this person's a woman, this person's a man, feminine, masculine, he, her, she, whatever. We're talking social, not biological. And I think one of the
Mhm.
best ways you can illustrate that is imagine two worlds, right? One in which you think of woman, she, her, all that crap as a social thing and only use more specific terminology when referring to biological functionality. So for example, like oh, this woman's really nice, she wore a dress, earrings, blah blah. So what's the actual biological stuff? It's pretty much down to womb, pregnancy, tits, genitalia, whatever, right? Like right, we're talking
Yeah, yeah,
biology.
yeah.
We're laying it down pretty narrow. Um
Yeah.
and imagine another world where it's the opposite, where we only say woman when referring to biological functionality, but then say person with feminine attributes when referring to anything else they do that isn't explicitly biological. So you wouldn't say, "Oh, that woman earrings." Oh, like, "Oh yeah, a dress." That's a
Yeah.
person with feminine attributes. When you run through this experiment, you realize 99% of the time when you're interacting with people in the world, you're interacting with the social element, not the biological. When you say that pronouns are biological, then why the fuck do we use them for inanimate objects? Why do we use she,
Yeah.
her pronouns for feminine robots in TV shows? Why do we use them for dwarves and elves in fantasy TV shows if the definition is supposed to be adult human female? Is
Mhm.
Galadriel an adult human female? She's absolutely, you've no fucking idea what she has. But she has long hair and a light voice. So we call her a woman. Yeah, we have languages that gender every noun. I think if you run through that, like, okay, when we talk about pronouns, gender identity, we can't be talking about biology because overwhelmingly we're not talking about biology. We're talking about shit that has nothing to do with biology. Um, anyway, just pointing out that the way these terms are used very rarely is even
Mhm.
adjacent to the biological. What do they call that? Sexual dimorphism.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
I've found that can be quite helpful because they never have an answer. At least I've never
Yeah, no, no,
encountered
no. Yeah.
anyone who has an answer to this.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, I guess like one of the first things that you said was, uh, yeah, as long as it's helping convince people, you know, whether it's a new or an old argument, it's
Siri,
good. So
your phone
yeah,
voice. People will literally use
yeah.
he and she for not even recorded voices, tone
People will call
modulation.
their cars she.
Yeah, anything. They'll call fucking
Like,
the and people get like committed to this too. Like, for example, it goes beyond like casually saying he or she. Have you ever seen The Next Generation?
no, I haven't, but I mean, I'm familiar with it because of all Jesse's videos.
Oh, well, Data.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
a, yeah, robot fucking in the future. Data's a he, you know.
Mhm,
Everyone uses he with Data. Obviously no biological functionality there. He's, you know,
mhm,
he's a robot. Entire episodes dedicated to the humanity of this individual. Again, not a human, right? At the end of the day, like these terms are for giving like us understanding. You know, they're like about informing our understanding of the world. And you can get
mhm,
a lot more understanding out of the like you can get so much more understanding from the world by appropriately gendering trans people because you
yeah,
lose so much otherwise. That's one of the reasons why when conservatives talk about trans people, everything's so confusing because they're
mhm,
like, "Oh yeah, Caitlyn Jenner, this trans male," and then they throw up a picture of a woman, and it's like, "What the fuck?" And they're confused because you can tell from all their little like verbal bits. They're like,
mhm.
ah, well, I'm so confused. I don't even know what this is. And you could just say like, it's trans woman, and then you're done.
Yeah,
You've done it. You know, their system has less utility than ours does. It doesn't work. They're being like, they're being opaque for the sake of being opaque. They're being confusing
yeah.
for the sake
I
of being
think a lot of
confusing.
them are. Um, I know outside of like the internet sphere and everything, it's kind of hard for me because like obviously doing YouTube and all that sort of stuff, living in a house with other content creators, like I barely see the real world
You live in a
anymore.
content house?
Uh, yeah. I just it's like three other guys, but
Congratulations. I know you have to be
yeah,
pretty confident in your friendships and careers to make a move like that.
yeah. I mean, it's been going pretty well so far. We probably will keep re-upping it considering how horrible the housing prices are. Uh,
Yeah, I'd stick with that. Even with how things are going for me, I still cringe whenever I look at like average housing prices in Seattle.
it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
terrible. I'm paying like a third of what I was paying last year for rent because of this. But sorry to get off
No,
topic.
no, that's dope.
Um, well, those were really the two things that I wanted to mention. Just I wanted to get your thoughts on them. I wanted, I guess, I'm a little baffled. If I could say something endearing and embarrassing,
Oh, hit me.
uh,
I love that shit.
when you were steamrolling, there was a point where I think my brain was like, "Oh, I'm not listening to Vaush right now. I'm talking." Because I've gotten so used to just hearing your voice in the background while I'm
Oh, I
like playing
totally get
Bloodborne.
that. I totally get I felt that way about other people too. No, it's a very strange feeling.
Yeah. No,
Um,
it's
I wish I could have engaged more metaphysically. My brain's
oh,
too
it's
small.
fine.
Um,
I mean, I understand like it's not practically helpful for a lot of people. I think for me, like the practicality of like being able to like why? Why? Like if somebody asks you why, being able to literally get to the point where the last answer you give is unarguable. That's very important for me because I have reconstructed and rebuilt my beliefs just like countless times ever since I was changing in my faith and understanding that and eventually losing my faith and even politically speaking, even though I've been kind of center left for most of my life, I've still shifted around quite a lot. I'm not sure if I would call myself a complete communist, but I agree with all of the prescriptions that you've given. So maybe I'm technically a communist. I don't know.
oh, there it is.
I'm not
It's
super good when it comes
insidious.
to economics. I'm more focused on metaphysical and social issues and things like
Well,
that.
then,
Uh,
then your attitude towards econ is mine towards metaphysics, in the sense that I know as much about it as I need to make the broad arguments. And I
yeah,
highly value people who know more. However, that's not my brain. That is
yeah.
yeah, that is a different brain. It's operating in that space, working on those problems.
I
The
just do not have the
compartmentalization
time to
of
keep up
knowledge.
with all of this sort of stuff and the math and the economics and the history of it all. I kind of defer that to you. I find it very interesting and I
Oh,
can learn easily, but
I'm no econ lord at all.
yeah. Oh, I mean, I don't defer that only to. I mean, I'm not like uncritically or
My
anything, but
favorite source for econ
yeah.
stuff is Unlearning Economics by far. I think that he has
Mm,
the best, most comprehensive video essays out there.
okay,
Um,
I
uh,
actually haven't seen those.
oh, I
Yeah.
highly recommend Unlearning Economics. Friend of the show. No, I'm very happy to speak to you, and I do hope I know. So you're very obviously somebody who's interested in introspection and self discovery. Learning these
Mm,
arguments as a process of like figuring stuff out for yourself in a way that relates directly to your life. I think it's a very
yeah.
different experience than the one I've had, because none of the stuff that I learned for the process of doing this stream, none of it has anything to do with me or my brain. I would be
Hmm.
jerking off and playing video games no matter what. I'm fine. I in that respect, you know, just by
Hmm.
pure demographic luck, I got to just kind of roll into a normative position in terms of identity and so on. Um, but I think it's very interesting, and oftentimes, you know, like very much a I don't know how I put it because I don't want to sound like the term. It's not condescending. It's like it's um. You know, there's a word bigger than cool that I was going for here. It was very there's something very admirable about that process of self-discovery, like learning for one's own sake to an extent, you know, like, well, what
Hmm.
can I, something like that. Oh, awesome is awesome. Awesome just means full of awe, but it sounds like such a juvenile word. The point that I'm trying to get at is that I think it's a cool process, and I genuinely wish you luck with
Hmm.
it, especially since it seems like you've already come quite a way on your own.
Hmm. I mean, I just want to understand the world. I generally, I really value knowledge and discovery, and I am completely non-dogmatic about basically anything I believe.
Except for
I
communism
am
once you get there.
once I get there, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not gonna try to overstay my welcome or anything. I really appreciate you having me on. I'm wanting to get more into this space. What would you give me as like some advice for stuff? Because I want to specifically with streaming. I love talking about these topics like with my audience, but my audience is mostly coming from vaguely political anime content and like video game analysis. It's
Well,
not it's not exactly the leftist space.
yeah, the trick is to excuse me, the trick is to never come across as preachy. Um,
Hmm.
this is the thing that the conservatives did to absolutely bowl over everyone else in terms of access to adjacent media. And you would know, you do anime stuff, right? Like
Hmm.
massive, you know, because the conservative always phrases it as like a free speech thing. If you criticize something you don't like in anime, so for example, in my case, the pedophilia or the sexism, the two big ones, you know, um, they're you know, retributive criticism will usually be something along the lines of, why are you so oversensitive? You're taking away the fun. This is like
Hmm.
a Gamergate-esque criticism. But what they're doing
Yeah.
what they're doing there is they're trying to present themselves as like the path one takes if you are cool and edgy and tolerant, not like those intolerant such and suches. It can be really
Hmm.
tough to bite your lip in some of this stuff, but I think for the most part, if you are just casually progressive in a way that makes it seem as though you're just kind of doing your own thing and not pulling other people towards you, you'll
Yeah.
usually not run into trouble. I mean, one of the biggest anime channels, Mother's Basement, is pretty
Yeah.
I'd say
He
actively progressive in a lot of his.
very, very, very. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
He's
yeah,
attracted a lot of traction on Twitter, especially.
yeah, to the point sometimes of actually getting preachy and getting into arguments over it. But
Yeah.
he's still pretty well loved, I think, you know, broadly. Um, I'm trying to think. I don't follow the anime community that much because of the aforementioned
That's
pedophilia and sexism, but I'm
yeah,
trying
yeah,
to think
yeah.
of
That's fair. Uh,
um
and
well,
it's kind of dead, to be honest. Most of the main anime channels that are active don't hardly talk about anime or manga that much anymore. I'm probably one of the probably five bigger ones that covers those sorts of essays and stuff.
yeah, I'll tell you
I don't know.
why. Because the community has shifted. The otaku community is no longer the main driving force in anime content consumption. Go on Twitter and see what goes viral. A fuck ton of people
Mm-hmm.
who are black or Latin are talking about like Chainsaw Man or
Mm,
Spy X Family or whatever. A ton of normies get in on this shit. I think the problem is that like it's like the niche community thing, right? Like there
mm-hmm.
are a lot of gaming channels on YouTube that are ancient and respected, but they tap a infinitesimal fragment of the like market of people who play games because they're meant for diehard fans. And like, let's be real, a lot of those hardcore anime channels are made for people who would catch fire if they saw the sun. You know, you know what I mean, right? Like these are for diehard anime fans who like follow season by season and have seasonal waifus and shit. But I think but anime is really popular. You know,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
you like the breakaway shows like One Punch Man or like My Hero Academia or whatever. but a lot of the media covering it, a lot of the channels covering it, only appeal to that like niche demographic. I bet there's going to be sometime soon another couple of like breakaway anime channels that find a
Mhm.
way to get people involved from a casual side, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I don't want to be super casual like either. I kind of divide in that place of the where it's not like waifu baity and not like horny baity. I feel
Mhm.
like a lot of them are like horny bait
Yeah,
channels.
yeah.
Uh or just stay like I want to talk about just thematic analysis because I feel like that's respected with movies and TV shows and even video games. But I feel like with anime, it's not overtly common,
Mhm.
or people are very dismissive of it. But I feel like there's a big audience for it.
No,
I
no,
mean,
for sure. No, no, wait. Sorry, I'm having an idea now. No, I fully agree. When I say casual, I mean who you appeal to, not the depth of the content.
okay, okay,
One thing that really strikes me here, it's like entryism. A lot of people who watch anime will only watch a couple of hit shows a year that they hear are good. They don't like browse my anime list and check top charts and go like, okay, let's
yeah,
check out, and go through like 3 or 4 a season or whatever. Only psychos do that. But if you do, then you're okay. But you know what I mean. Um, so I think that a lot of those people, they don't know how to get into adjacent media consumption because there isn't really like an entry point to spread interest in this. The main thing
hmm
that I'm thinking of is speed running, because the number of people who do video game speed running is pretty small, very niche. If you take a look at like the number of people watching those attempts live, not that big. Seriously,
hmm
like it's a niche community. But then you
no, yeah.
go on YouTube.
I'll watch those Elden Ring speed runs when it was coming out. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
and there are analysis videos like Carl Jobst, who the millions of views on
hmm
like or the other one, Summoning Salt. And it's like, yeah, here's like a speed running achievement nobody knows about, nobody cared about. 5 people were
Yeah.
watching the live attempt. Here's a 3 million view video dramatizing it. And I think a large part of that is because of awesome games done quick, or summer games
hmm
done quick, which was, I don't know if you know, the fundraisers done on Twitch twice a year, where they have speedrunners come on and they fundraise by doing their favorite games. And that gives the normies on Twitch a way of getting involved in the community in like a familiarity kind of way, like
hmm
experiential, without like feeling as though there's some kind of diehard speedrunning content, consumer, where they follow
Yeah.
16 records at any given time. And then the video essays do really well. So sorry, I'm totally rambling here. I'm just saying
Oh
there's
yeah.
like a missing link in this content production pipeline for
hmm
good anime channels, which I want, by the way, because I like anime and I don't want all the anime shows that I like to be exclusively covered by people who are, uh check out Anya from Spy X Family. Boy, that's a hot
I don't think there's
baby.
that many channels that are like that.
No, there aren't that
Uh,
many channels that are that bad, but
I feel like there's a lot of channels who intentionally drama monger about this sort of stuff. See all these people who are angry about Anya. Like, there's a lot of people who do that.
well, they're
For
doing the
sure.
like right wing thing, right? Where it's like, look
Yeah,
at
yeah,
all
yeah. It's
these
like the courtroom.
normies
Yeah,
who can't handle our edgy, elite, epic, like that shit.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You get what I mean. So I'm rambling like crazy. I do yeah, I think it's cool. I hope it works out in terms of
Yeah.
like reaching mass market appeal.
Yeah. Well, especially like I really want to. I don't know. I want to talk about more left things. I'm hoping that I just casually introducing, like you were saying, just like casual positions, just put in there in a very natural sense, will just sort of slowly give people the right idea. I don't know. That's
Well,
my hope.
the best thing you can do when starting off is to make it clear that your channel is a progressive oriented space in a way that can't be objected to. So I think what some of the easiest ways of doing this are to cover like more progressive or more socially aware anime and like gender
hmm
trans characters properly, or just like casually mention stuff but with non-prescriptive
hmm
takes, because they can't object to that, because if anyone in the comments freaks out over that, you can make fun of them and you look like the good guy because they're the ones
Yeah.
who got triggered first. And if you do
No.
that for
Yeah.
long enough, you're known as a progressive channel and you can get more leeway with your audience, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Just my
It'll
guess.
just be a sand by sand. You know.
I'm looking at like the top anime results if I look on YouTube right now. Um
Oh no.
IGN don't understand anime, maybe. Crunchyroll Collection's always doing really well. That's not surprising. Anime Expo top cosplay, which is mostly going to be giant tits. Summer Anime 2022 in a nutshell, which is just a
Yeah, most
clip
of that's gonna
channel.
be Garnt stuff.
Mob Psycho 103 opening, which fucking slaps, which is awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Mob 3 is great.
Dude, fuck. Wait, you're right. All of the top anime videos, if you search it right now, are clip shows.
Yeah.
What the fuck? 10
I mean, there's a few anime channels that like are around and do similar stuff to like what I do, but they're mostly people who've been around for like a few years. A lot of the newer channels aren't really
Look at this.
breaking into like big.
Seven.
You can't finish this video.
7 million views. Cyberpunk Edge Runners, but it's just Rebecca. Studio Trigger plus Lolly plus Cyberpunk 2077 equals Rebecca moments.
Yeah.
Top 10 best harem anime you should watch. I can't. Anime's biggest problem: women. I mean, me too, man. Oh, wait, that was a rare viral video from this channel. The most recent vid got 100 views. Fuck! The anime space is fucked right now. Oh, shit.
Yeah. No, it's pretty dead.
Oh, wait, hold on.
I mean,
Succession War explained from Hunter x Hunter. Wait, I need this. Hold on. Wait, hold on. Never mind. It's fine. I need this. Okay. Sorry, I'm totally rambling. I'm literally going to be late for something else because I've been rambling for too long. I really enjoyed talking to you.
No, I appreciate it. I'd love to talk again. I'll try to come up with more topics.
Yeah, metaphysics too, electric boogaloo. Absolutely.
Something a little more like just casual, I guess.
Not at all. You have a wonderful day. Oh, and shout out your channel one more time, please.
Oh, all right. I'm hiding in public. Spelled exactly how it sounds with the spaces. That's my anime channel. My gaming channel, where I just finished my giant Persona 4 analysis, going into a lot of the cultural details, talking about gender stuff and all that, is hiding in private. So it's hiding in public and hiding in private. And then on Twitch, I stream every day, 3 p.m. Central Time. And that's hiding Kun, like Kun.
Your ultimate Persona 4 analysis video seems to be exactly 10 hours long.
It's so listen, I hate long video analysis where they just recap shit forever. I promise it's not that. I spent an entire year of my life researching this. It's actually 14 hours and 49 minutes. There's a 4-hour part 2 at the end, but I go through all 22 major characters, all their character arcs. I go through the naming, the meaning of each of their names in Japanese using the kanji. I talk about the mythological parallels. I talk about like I literally own I put it up in my room, but I own a copy of the Kojiki, and I read through all of Carl Jung's works in preparation for the video. I mean, I literally, that script is over 160,000 words. It's a it's
Jesus
huge.
Christ.
It's,
all right, well, you know,
never doing that again.
For the people mad enough to try, they know where to find it. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was debating on if I should mention that I made that.
What? You absolutely should. Are you kidding me? I have great respect for feats of autistic prowess. Absolutely. It's like the Great Wall of Autism. A lot of people died making this video. I haven't played Persona 4. I wouldn't understand any of this. I should play Persona 4. I need to play Persona 4 and Persona 5. I don't need to go back further than that, I don't think.
Yeah, I did actually upload each of them into individual segments before I put them all together, but it was written as one video. So like each character, pretty much most of the content on that side channel is all the individual segments and then the full video.
That fucking slaps. Absolutely. Then you get to double up on content too.
Yeah, I'm working on a Steven Universe defense video. That'll probably be the next project for that channel.
Are you going to undo some of the brain damage done by Lily Orchard? Yes,
100%.
Hell yeah.
It's probably going to be like a 4 or 5 hour-ish kind of thing. I'm 30,000 words
casual.
in. Well, it's way less work than the Persona one was. It's so much less work than that. But yeah, I don't know. I'm estimating that'll probably be out in like April or something. It's going to take a while. But...
Oh shit, now chat knows. There you go, guys. Well, I certainly, for media that I actually have consumed, I certainly look forward to the Steven Universe defense video. It's about time we got some cultural pushback in Lily Orchard's awful fucking video.
Yeah.
I don't even I criticize the hell out of Steven Universe too, but that fucking video is so um deranged. Fuck.
I don't even know where to start. Yes, it's horrifying.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting distracted again. Hey,
No,
have a
yeah.
wonderful day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I enjoyed my time.
Have a wonderful
Appreciate
day, and I look forward to the Steven Universe video.
it. Hopefully it comes out.
God willing. I'll hold you to it.
All right.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. That was nice. Okay, listen. For those of you who don't know, Lily Orchard is like a very weird, insane, like Tumblr freak, docs, Kiwi Farms obsessed pedophile, maybe, who made a video, Steven Universe is garbage and here's why, that's 8 million views. It's got actually, no, it's got a lot of good points, but it's got a lot of very dumb, vindictive points. And this video got mega viral because at the time it released, a lot of people were just getting ready to turn on Steven Universe because Steven Universe was so popular. And like, look at the, like, yeah. So it was about time for there to be a cultural backlash, and holy shit did it come out.